And welcome back to SWBA Today. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the SWBA scoreboard, and we're going to be recapping all the games that took place yesterday and the major storylines to come out of those games. Next, we're going to be looking at the SWBA standings on the eastern and the western side of things. We're going to be looking at just how these recent records are going to impact the SWBA playoffs. Lastly, we're going to be doing a new segment where we're going to be looking at the SWBA team that nobody wants to face in the playoffs. And so we're going to be talking about the Eastern Conference. And so we're talking about one team. This is something that maybe we ramp up a little bit more as the SWBA playoffs approach. And so let's go ahead and jump into it and looking at the scores. And so I think that before we jump into the scoreboard, the first major key takeaway out of last night's action was that, look, this was the last regular season game for the Inside the NBA crew. And so, look, if you are a basketball fan, you know about this show. They have been terrific. I think they do some outstanding work. And so they're going to be doing some more playoff games and things like that. But this was the last regular season game. And so I think that I wanted to go ahead, give them their flowers because they do some terrific work around the SWBA. And so I wanted to go ahead and say that I think that that was the first major key takeaway out of last night. And so now we go ahead and jump into the scores here. And so the first score that I wanted to look at was the New York Knicks versus the Detroit Pistons. And so, look, I think that this was all about the Detroit Pistons and why this is a team that I think nobody wants to see. They walked the New York Knicks down. They had a huge run, I think, in the third and the fourth quarter, and they were led by Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham had 36 points in this one. He also had 8 assists, and look, he had a couple rebounds as well. And so, look, Cade Cunningham, he's looked terrific this season, and he's been really part of the major turnaround here with the Detroit Pistons. And they also got another great contribution here from Jalen Duren. I think that he continues to play well. He's really becoming, I think, one of the better big men in the SWBA. And so he had 18 points and 13 rebounds. So yet again, another double-double, +4 on 9 of 9 from the field. And then when you look at the Knicks, look, they had Jalen Brunson, they had Karl Anthony Towns, they had Mikal Bridges here, but it wasn't enough. Karl Anthony Towns had 25 and 10 rebounds and 5 assists, so he had a double-double. Then you had Jalen Brunson. I think he's looked pretty good since he's come back from the ankle injury. He had 15 points, 5 assists. Didn't shoot the ball as well in this game. He was only 5 of 15 and 3 of 9 from deep. But still, I think that this was enough, for the Knicks to get it done. And I think that this is kind of a bad loss this late in the season. And so you got to give the Pistons a lot of credit, winning 115-106. And so next up, next game here was the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Indiana Pacers. And so I think that the major takeaway that I get out of this is that the Cavs have like a good supporting cast. I think that when you look at the trade that they got DeAndre Hunter, I think that he's been really incredible for this team. And he was incredible last night because this was a team that sat a lot of their starters here. So there was no Darius Garland, there was no Donovan Mitchell, there was no Evan Mobley. And I think the only reason that Jared Allen played is because he wants to play, I think, all 82 games. I think that's what his goal was. And so look, in this game, DeAndre Hunter played very good. He had 23 points. He had 11 rebounds. He had 2 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, and a block. And he was +18. You had Ty Jerome, 24 points, +13. He had 6 assists in this. He was 9 of 16. And then I think that Craig Porter Jr. played very well off the bench for the Cavs. So he had 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. But ultimately, this came down to the stars of the Pacers. I think that it was just a bit more star power on the floor for them. Got to give them a ton of credit. Tyrese Halliburton almost had a triple-double, hit some tough shots in this game. So he's had 23 points. He had 10 assists, and he also had 8 rebounds on 8 of 16 shooting, 4 of 11 from downtown. Hit a very nice, double clutch fall-away jumper in the third or fourth quarter to really make this thing tight. And then defensively, you have to give Andrew Nembhard a lot of credit for making the key defensive stop at the end. I think that Obi Toppin had a highlight dunk in this one in between the legs. And then also, too, shout out to Jarris Walker, man, playing very well. Played at Houston. He had 15 points, had a buzzer beater, I think, in the second quarter as well, so showing his range. And so he was 3 of 4, 6 of 7 from the field in 15 minutes, so a good game there. Pacers looking very strong down the stretch, maybe a team that nobody wants to see here. So next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks versus the Brooklyn Nets. And so, look, this was all about the Atlanta Hawks, and this was all about their young core here because with Zachary Rizichet, 38 points in this game. He was plus 28. He was 15 of 20 from the field, 6 of 11 from deep. And so he really, really had it going last night, had 4 rebounds as well. And I mean, his game looked very good. And then when you look at Trae Young, he did have 24 points, but he also had 12 assists, and he's quietly leading the league in assists. So I think that he's playing very well. And then maybe an underrated pickup for the Hawks is that they have Terrence Mann, 14 points last night, 6 of 9 from the field, and 3 rebounds. And so I think he'll be critical for them as the play-in situation approaches. And then when you look at the Brooklyn Nets, look, it's all about the lottery balls for this team. I think in that and just playing the younger guys. And so once again, I think you see a good contribution here from Drew Timme. I'm curious to see what they do with him moving forward because he's looked good since he's come out of the G League. 13.6 assists and 11 rebounds, showing a lot of the stuff that he used to do when he was playing for Gonzaga. So maybe they have a little bit of a steal here coming out of the G League. And so next up, you got the Milwaukee Bucks and you got the New Orleans Pelicans in this one. And so this was all about Giannis just really dominating. And I think that the bottom line is that that's what it's going to take for the Bucks to make a serious run, is that Giannis is going to have to play like this. And then he's going to have to get some good contributions from the supporting cast. I think that Bobby Portis has been strong since he's come back. He had 14 points in this one. He had 8 rebounds as well. He was plus 17, and so he's been on the tear since he's been back. And then when you look at Giannis and what he was able to do, 28 points in this one, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, he was just bullying the Pelicans, doing anything he wanted to do out there. And so strong game for him. And then just with the Pelicans, much like the Nets, look, this is a team that is looking forward to the SWBA lottery. They have a ton of questions that need to be answered with this franchise. And so next up, we got the last game of the night, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Memphis Grizzlies as they win 141-125, referring to the Timberwolves. And so, look, this is all about why I think that Anthony Edwards, you might consider him as maybe the 3rd best player in all of the SWBA, because his ability to score is special. I mean, it is because the athleticism, his ability to get his shot off at any given time, and the fact that he, I think, leads the SWBA as far as like 3-point attempts or something like that. And then he's also leading in free throw attempts. Like, that just lets you know just how good he is as far as finding his shot and then also to getting to the basket. Like, there's not anything that Anthony Edwards cannot do. And so he had 44 points, plus 15 in this one. He had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 of 11 from downtown, 13 of 19 from the field, and he was 11 of 13 from the free throw line. Like I said, I was thoroughly impressed because he scored in so many different ways. And then also, too, Julius Randle had a very strong game, maybe his best game as a Timberwolf. 31 points. He had 10 rebounds and 5 assists, and so that was huge. They got Naz Reid back clicking. He had 14, 6 rebounds and an assist in this one with -7. And then on the other side of this thing, Memphis Grizzlies. And so, look, I think that Ja Morant played strong. I think that he's showing his ability to knock down the 3-point shot, which I think that is probably the next step in Ja Morant's game, is that he's got to consistently knock down the 3. He was 5 of 13 in this one, 36 points. He also had 6 assists, and he had a steal as well. 13 of 27 from the field, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. Desmond Bane, strong game as well, 28 points, 9 assists in this. And then also, too, Jaren Jackson Jr. had 23 points, 2 steals, and he was 8 of 18 from the field, but not enough for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I also want to know, too, Scottie Pippen Jr., man, I think he played very strong in this game as well. And I think that he's been like maybe just the underrated pickup for this team. I think that he's been huge. And I think at some point, man, he's going to be a starter in the SWBA. 16 points. He had 4 assists in this one, -2. 4 of 7 from the free throw line, 6 of 11 from the field. But I love his game. And so with Memphis, look, it's all about they're in the same position that they've always been in. And I just think that maybe they're good enough to get a win maybe get out of a round, but I don't think they're going to make any serious noise. And with the Timberwolves, look, I think that they still need to build some more around Anthony Edwards. We'll see what happens now that you have Alex Rodriguez. I think he's in management over there. And so I think that they're definitely going to do what they can to maximize that team. And I think it can be a scary team with just the way that Ant-Man can score like that. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump quickly over into the SWBA standings. And so starting with the Eastern Conference here and looking at the key takeaways out of that, we'll move that out of the way. And so, look, we know about the Cavs, we know about the Celtics, we know about the Knicks, but I think it gets very interesting right here in 4, 5, and 6, because to me personally, the Pistons, we're going to talk about them here in a moment. That is a team that I'm not sure that any of these teams want to see, especially like the Knicks, Pacers. I don't know if you want to see this Pistons team because they have a terrific mix of younger players along with veteran players, and they're playing free. There is no fear over there, and the Pistons got a ton of swag, and so I just don't know if anybody wants to see that smoke with them. And then another team that I'm not sure that anybody necessarily wants to see personally, I think it's the Magic, because the Magic, they were trending to be maybe a 3-4 seed before they got injured there, but now they've got their team back together, and I think a lot of people forget that the Magic took the Cavs to 7 games. And I know that the Cavs got a little bit better, but listen, this Magic team, I think that they got better as far as coming together. And you'll see once the playoffs start, if they're able to maybe make it out of the play-in situation, we'll see what happens with that. That could be a real scary team. And so just putting those notes out there, as teams that maybe you want to take a look at. And so next we'll go over here and take a look at the Western Conference and just looking at the details there. And so, look, we've been talking about OKC. We know about them. The Rockets, I think that we pretty much know what's about to happen there. I think that that is one of those teams that, look, even though that they're second, I'm not sure that too many teams want to see them. It's going to be all about what goes on with Jalen Green. I've talked about that before because his floor just can't be that low, but they got a lot of pieces that I think can overcome some of his tough games. And so with that being said, the Lakers, look, they seem to be trending in the right direction. I think that Luka's finding his way over the last portion of the season here. The Nuggets, listening to Nikola Jokic, he's saying that they sound pretty motivated with the firing here of Coach Malone. And so let's see how that plays out. The Clippers, I think that they got a big help by the Memphis Grizzlies as far as them losing their game. And so they've slid back into 6. Remember, top 6 spots qualify for the playoffs and you're not in the play-in. And so I think the Warriors very much so need to get out of that, in my personal opinion. Even though they're good enough, I still think that they want to get out of that. And so with the Grizzlies, Timberwolves, and the Kings and the Mavs, look, I think it's going to be between these 3 teams, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves, and the Kings. And I think that bottom line here is that Grizzlies Timberwolves game, it actually was a lot better than what the score was. It's just that the Timberwolves kind of took off. And if you go back a couple years ago in their playoff series, that was a series that went back and forth. And I think that you're still going to see that because I see those teams are kind of similar in the sense of the way that they're set up with their stars. And they just don't have enough to, I think, win multiple series, but they can make it interesting and exciting, right? Because they have such good players. And so I think that they're going to be the teams to watch. With the Kings, I think we've seen this movie before. I continue to keep saying this with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. So they've been playing well as of late. We'll see what happens. And so just to let you know, we got action tonight in the association. And I believe Sunday, everybody in the association is going to play. And so that means that everybody is going to be, on the line for this last one. That means that we could see maybe a little bit more shifting here. But so we'll be talking about that on Sunday. And so with that being said, that leads me to the last portion here, and that is the SWBA team that nobody wants to see in the playoffs. And so the first feature is going to go to the Detroit Pistons. I think that this is a team that, I'm not sure that many want to see them because I just think that this is a team, they've got a terrific mix, I think, of veterans and then also rookies, or not rookies, but young players as well. And I like the fact that they are bringing over Cleveland's coach as well. And Coach Bickerstaff, here's a guy that has been there with the Cavs. And I think instantly it's really translating and it's kicking in with this Pistons team. And so let's start with Cade Cunningham because I think that Cade Cunningham has been special this year. And I think that it's interesting because Cade Cunningham, I think that they were giving him like a lot of the comparisons to like a Paul George type of player. And when you go back and you look at his tape and you look at the way that he scores, I love the fact that Cade Cunningham is very comfortable in the box, so to speak. When you look at Paul George, you look at Cade Cunningham, they're comfortable with guys kind of hanging on them, people reaching in to get the basketball or whatnot in very tight spaces. They know how to create space and get a great shot up and use really their height. They know how to use really the power that they have generated going downhill to get a good shot. And so I love that about Cade Cunningham. And it looks like that the game is really slowing down for him. And just looking at last night's game, his ability to get to the lane and then also to knock down 3-point shots, like that is going to be tough to stop really in a 7-game series. I think even in his first playoff series, it's going to be tough. He's averaging 26 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 9.1 assists a game, and 46% from the field. So 46.6% to be exact as far as his field goes. And then when you look at the 3-point shooting, he's shooting 35.4 this season. Not bad for him. And so he's doing a great job there. And so, look, I think that is point number one for them, is that they have a real legit star. And then when you look at the others, like the veterans that they have here, you have a guy like Dennis Schroeder, who's been there before. Then you have a guy like Malik Beasley, who I think is in the running for the SWBA, maybe 6th man of the year. So he's playing very well. And I think he's certainly a player that is going to help them. And then we just talked about Tobias Harris. Look, Tobias Harris has been into several playoff series, big time. And so he's definitely going to play a factor here. And so I just like that the Pistons, man, it's a team that's fearless. They have bigs that are going to go in and play with a level of physicality, which is really something you're going to need, especially in the postseason as the game slows down. I think that is really one of the bigger things that you see here in the SWBA is the level of physicality, I think, picks up because teams get a bit more chippy. Like they know each other, the sets, it gets kind of very back and forth chippy that way. You're not seeing other teams in between. And then obviously, what you're talking about in between the lines, exchanging Christmas cards and things like that, so to speak. And so, look, it's going to be very interesting in that regards, but I feel like that the Pistons, they can match up there physically with a lot of teams as well. I like what they have in the undersized center in Isaiah Stewart. I like him a lot. I love the fact that they have Azar Thompson. I think that he's going to be interesting on the wing as a slasher. He's really come into his own. And I also like the fact that they do get some veteran presence as well from Tim Hardaway Jr. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to stretch the floor. So that means that when they blitz Cade Cunningham, they do have some additional shooters out there that can make these guys pay. I would love to see if they could get Jaden Ivey back. I think certainly he would be a guy that could help this team out. I think he's out right now. He had to get that surgery, I think, on his ankle. But, man, I would love to see him in the playoffs as well. But still, this is a team that can hurt you. You got Paul Reed on the front line. We talked about Duran, who's one of my favorite big men as well, getting double-doubles. He not only dunks on you, but, man, he brings the roof down. And so, look, this is a Pistons team I think that we should be looking for in the playoffs. I think this is a team that just really nobody wants to see. And so anyway, let me know in the comments, what is your key takeaway here? Do you think that, yes, the Pistons are a team that, look, a lot of these top teams maybe don't want to see, especially the Pacers, Knicks, who might have to see them? Let me know what you guys are thinking there. We'll be talking a little bit more about other teams in the SWBA playoffs that, look, I think that they might have a chance to really shake some things up. So as we always say around here, see the game and be the game. We'll see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.